Hello, and welcome back to Ask Alan about low carb cocktails. This week, I wanted to do something a little different. The ginger beers that are available, at least that I could get, that are low carb, are ones that I wanted to test to see which one would be best, especially in a dark and stormy. So join me as we look at each of these ginger beers and discover which ones are best. Hello and welcome to Ask Alan about low carb cocktails. This week we are going to go through a dark and stormy with different ginger beers. So I have the Gosling's 151 Black Seal rum. Normally you don't use the 151, just use the Black Seal, but I have the 151, so that's what I'm going to use. And yes, it's lime juice from a bottle, just because I want to do things easier rather than spending a lot of time squeezing limes. It'll be better with fresh lime. But I'm going to mix only a quarter of a mix for each one, because for 6 different ones, I don't want to have that many dark and stormies sitting on my counter. So we'll start with Gosling's. Gosling's has 0 carbs, and that's the Gosling's Diet Ginger Beer. Pour a little bit of that in there. Has a decent taste. This brand, Barritt, also has 0 carbs. It's one that's in the local Hy-Vee here, and I don't know, I've never seen it before, but this is one that you may be able to find. Seems to foam up a little bit more. Not as good as the Gosling's, but still has that fuzzy carbonated taste that you want to get out of the ginger beer. It's not as ginger forward. The next one is one that I found called Bunaberg. It's from Australia, and I guess that came up fine. This one has a little bit of carbs. There's 6 grams in the bottle, and the bottle has 12.7 fluid ounces. So that's probably around half of a carb per ounce. So that's not too much, but it is a little. That's pretty good. It's got the Gosling has a little heavier ginger taste, but this has pretty good taste. A little sweeter taste. The next one, found this also in the Hy-Vee. It's a Diet Ginger Beer from Cock and Bull. This one has no carbs. Nice and foamy. I like that. That's got, it's not overly, it doesn't have a heavy sweet taste, and it's got a little bit more ginger taste. Now, a lot of people don't really like the ginger taste. It's actually got a little bit of heat on that too. So that's actually, so far I think that's the one I like best. Fever Tree is one that I've heard a lot of. This one is not a diet ginger beer, but is a ginger beer light. So, and again, this one, the Fever Tree, doesn't have a twist off top, so I had to get an opener for that. But it has, I wrote that down there. That's got 9 carbs for a 6.8 ounce bottle. Small bottle, more added sugar. So it's not diet, it's light. So per ounce, that's going to be 1.32 grams per ounce. So not as good on the diet side of it, but it's still relatively low. Smoother, sweeter. Definitely this has a good taste, but it does have more sugar. So it's got the highest amount of carbs. This last one, Zevia, they make a lot of low carb or zero sugar sodas, and usually they are all clear because they don't add dyes and things. So usually you find this in the health food section. This is not actually a ginger beer, it's a ginger root beer. So it's a little different, but and it's going to look about the same because it has no dye in it. So it does have that ginger taste to it, not as high as most of these other ones, but definitely has a root beer taste instead. So if you want to have more of that root beer taste rather than ginger, just ginger, then that would be one you might want to try. For Dark and Stormy, it might not be the best, but we'll see in a moment. So let's take what I already pre-measured. I'm only going to do a quarter of a recipe for each of these. And since I already had that pre-measured, I just have to add the 1 ounce of each of these. So normally a Dark and Stormy would be approximately 2 ounces of the rum, half ounce of the lime, and 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, depending on what recipe you do. So I typically do a 4 ounce, maybe 5 ounce, but in this case we're doing a quarter, so it'll be 1 ounce of each of these. So now I've mixed up each of the quarter of a recipe of one of each of these 6. So we'll start with the Goslings, which is what normally is supposed to be in a Dark and Stormy because they own the recipe. A good taste, definitely what I remember. This Barritt's not as good as the Goslings, but still reasonably good. Try to clean my palate a little bit. The Bunaberg, I'm interested to see what this tastes like. Yeah, that has a little bit better taste, a little smoother, a little bit of sweetness. I think that Bunaberg did have a little bit of carbs, so in a Dark and Stormy, you'd end up with a couple carbs from that. none in these two, and none in this one. And this one I'm very interested as well because that had a higher, um, a larger ginger taste. Yeah, I really do like that. The ginger actually gives a little bit of extra burn to that taste. If you don't like high ginger, then you might not like that one. You might prefer to go with like the Barritts. This Fever Tree, again, that's one that it's more expensive. It's one that I've heard a lot about. I think Steve, the barman, I think from the UK, I think Fever Tree is one that he uses a lot, or one similar to that. But we'll try that. Of course, he doesn't use the low carb versions, but we are. And also a good taste, not as ginger forward, a little sweeter. So definitely one that, depending on your palate, that one might be good. I wanted to do this one last because it's actually a ginger root beer, and I'm not sure how that's going to taste, but we'll see. No, uh, it just doesn't have the right taste. If you want something that's got a root beer taste and a little bit of ginger, then that would be good. But for Dark and Stormy, I don't think that's the right one. But I did want to try it just because it was a ginger root beer. I wanted to see how different that was. For this taste test, I don't think that's the one to go with. In general, they have a good root beer, and I kind of like it. The ginger root beer, now if I want ginger, I'll just go with a real ginger beer. So of the ones that, um, other than the Zevia, which is not truly a ginger beer, there was the Goslings, the Barritts, the Bunaberg, Cock and Bull, and Fever Tree. Fever Tree is more expensive, and I don't like that taste as much. It's a little too sweet, and it's a lower ginger taste. So for a Dark and Stormy, it's not what I would prefer. I really do like the Cock and Bull because one, it's zero carbs. Two, it has the highest ginger taste in these, from what I can get out of the taste. The Bunaberg is decent. Barritt's is not as good as Gosling's. So I think, try these again. So my ranking in a Dark and Stormy, this for the Cock and Bull for the higher ginger taste. That's one. But if you don't want that higher ginger taste, which many don't, then it's between the Bunaberg and the Goslings. The Bunaberg has a little bit better taste on the sweet side. Goslings seems to be a little more authentic, I think, for Dark and Stormy. So I would go with Goslings first, Bunaberg second, or unless you want the higher ginger, then it's the Cock and Bull. So Cock and Bull, Goslings, or Bunaberg. So 6 different ones. We've tried them all. That's my opinion on the taste profiles. Now I've got a whole bunch of ginger beer that I got to drink, and hopefully you will try these and you will enjoy them. And come back next time. Do like and subscribe and share and do all those things. so that we can hopefully get the algorithm to promote these videos more. I do hope that this is something that is useful for people, and that you can share it with your friends, especially those who need to have lower carb cocktails, so that they can enjoy things as well without spiking their blood sugars. Thank you, and see you next time.